Hey everybody, welcome to our book talk today. I am Lisa Dickey and my guest today is Lisa Niemi Swayze. I am an author and a book collaborator. I've worked on a whole bunch of books with a whole bunch of people, and I have a book of my own, Bears in the Streets, 3 Journeys Across a Changing Russia. Came out a few years ago. But today, our guest is Lisa Niemi Swayze. Lisa Niemi Swayze has spent decades in theater, TV, and film industries. She wrote, directed, and produced the film One Last Dance in 2004, in addition to directing her husband, Patrick, in the acclaimed television series The Beast, among other projects. Her recent book, Worth Fighting For, this is Worth Fighting For, beautiful cover, chronicles her last months with her husband of 34 years, Patrick Swayze, as he battled pancreatic cancer. Both a New York Times bestseller and an international bestseller, it is an emotionally honest and unflinching depiction of battling illness and loss. It is also an incredible life-affirming exploration of the power of the human spirit. In 2009, Lisa and Patrick co-wrote his memoir titled The Time of My Life, another beautiful cover, which also became a New York Times bestseller as well as an international bestseller. It is a behind-the-scenes look at their success in Hollywood and their remarkable love story, creating a captivating memoir that is both entertaining and inspirational. An accomplished horsewoman and pilot, Lisa divides her time, and sometime poker player, Lisa divides her time between Florida and Los Angeles, and she is currently working on a new book. Ooh, I'm excited to talk to you about that. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's been really busy, and it's, I got to a point where I thought, hey, you know what? I'm getting older. I don't have the stamina I used to do. I've just proved myself wrong with moving out of this house and everything. I can still get and go. Let me tell you.
So you've been lifting boxes.
I'm doing good.
You've been like great. Heroically lifting boxes and working out.
Put me back in shape.
I've seen you do things like this. I am a believer in your ability to move mountains. It's kind of incredible.
Thank you.
So today we want to talk about both of your books, and I want to talk about what's in them because I think people would love to hear some stories from your life with Patrick.
Sure.
And then maybe we can talk a little bit about your process in writing them. And so let's get started. Tell me a little bit. This is kind of fun. I'm enjoying this. Oh, and by the way, I did do a little bit of work with Patrick and Lisa on that first book. And so
yes, she did.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
We're old pals, and I got to know Patrick, and he's a lovely, lovely human being. And you guys were really great to sort of invite me into your lives in that sort of crucial time in your lives. But let's go back to the beginning. Tell me how you met Patrick Swayze.
How I met him? Well, I was involved with a theater group in Houston, and they joined forces with his mom's dance studio. And I saw Patrick, if I call him Buddy, that's his nickname. You'll know who I'm talking about. From afar, and he had a reputation. He was like Mr. All-American, looked perfect and everything, and he had a reputation of, that he had a big head. So if he came in the room, he had to raise the roof to accommodate his head. Well, our first contact was, I was walking into the theater. He was walking out. He reached over and pinched me on the derriere, and said, "Hey, cutie," and I was like, "Oh, brother. I can't believe it. This guy is exactly what everyone's been saying." And then things kind of moved along, and we started talking, and then he asked me out, and I'm like, okay, let's see what's here. So, and
let's roll back tape for a minute, though. How old were you at this point?
14, 15.
And he was like 16? He was like 16 or 17?
You know what? Thank you. I think probably, I think it was more like 16.
Yes. It was, you guys were both teenagers though. He comes, he pinches you on the butt and you're like, oh my God, this guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was not, I was not your run of the mill girl, that was going to like, all the other girls are like all a Twitter, and that wasn't my style. And I think that it probably attracted him even more.
Oh, because all the girls were like, ooh, Patrick Swayze.
Fawning all over him. And, he thought I was smart, and, he admired my dancing when I was really getting into the dancing. And Yeah. And you know what? It's so funny because as perfect as he seemed to be, all American, good looking, very strong, he was very much an outcast because he didn't fit in because he was so accomplished and so great. And but at the opposite end of the spectrum, I didn't fit in either because I was kind of like antisocial and hung out with the troublemakers and, very awkward in fitting into things. So it's interesting that as different polar opposites as we were actually very much the same inside.
And I would imagine once you discovered that, once you start sort of realizing that about each other, that's when the relationship really could start.
Oh, yeah. And in retrospect, I look and it's actually pretty phenomenal how connected we were. And, when you're in the middle of it, you don't really recognize it as much. But yeah, we were very connected.
I'm going to show this picture of the two of you in your dance class. That's back in the early days there.
Yeah.
That's That's a great picture.
We were actually getting ready to do a little exhibition, and we were going to sing Summer Nights from Greece.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we were looking at the sheet music there.
That's great. That's a really cute picture. You guys are just got these little cute smiles on your faces. All right. So the relationship develops, and then you guys you were in Houston and you left Texas, right? So where did you go?
New York City.
Woo-hoo.
Yes. Yeah. And Patrick had departed, like a year or year and a half prior, maybe 2 years. But he would always come back to Houston, and guess who he came back to see? Me. And really the relationship developed where we ended up with a lot of trust. And so we moved into, I moved in. I said, well, I have to find a place. I was going on scholarship, dance scholarship. We have to find a place. He goes, you could stay with me. Wink, wink. And of course, that sounded fine because there were probably 4 or 5 other dancers in the 1-bedroom apartment we were all sharing. And so, cool, we went in there. I went there, and lo and behold, it was like within 2 weeks, everybody else had moved out. It was just Buddy and me. And it was like, oh my goodness. And
he was a man with a plan.
Oh, he was. And he was playing all these romantic songs on the stereo. And I was like, this guy is there's something happening here.
Yeah, he had some intention. All right, so how did it end up that you guys decided to get married?
Well, it's it's kind of funny how it happened, but just the way I grew up, and I was a very guarded person. I felt like I had to kind of keep my feelings hidden so that I wasn't vulnerable. And I think that had a lot to do with when he asked me to marry him. I was like, oh, no, because I just wanted to dance. I wanted to dance. And I said, well, maybe we could do it like in a year.
Because you guys were, when you say I wanted to dance, you mean you were both like making careers as professional dancers?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I didn't want to be in a relationship. I wanted to dance. I wanted to focus solely on that. And,
were you guys looking at ballet? Was it ballet dancing?
Oh, yes. In New York City, we were Joffrey Ballet. Actually, at that time, we were at Harkness Ballet and then went over to Joffrey Ballet.
Wow.
And
yeah. So you're career minded, and he's like, let's get married.
Oh, yeah. And I was just terrified me. And I kind of stalled and said, yeah, maybe a year from now. I figured long engagement. We could figure this out in the meantime. And he looked totally crestfallen and said, no, I think if we do it right away, like next month. And he was so upset that he actually said he was going to probably run his motorcycle into a stop sign. So I felt a little emotionally blackmailed. Oh, and but at the same time, we were connecting on a level, and we would talk hours and hours and hours late into the night. We'd stay up all night talking. And I was not willing to give up the relationship at that point. Yeah. And I thought to myself, well, that's okay. We'll go ahead and get married, and we could always get divorced later. Well, cut to, over 3 decades of marriage. And I think maybe he knew something that I didn't at that point.
He was onto something.
Yes, yes.
So, wow. Well, so it's interesting that you say like you were guarded and you sort of kept your emotions to yourself, because he was the opposite. I mean, I think he just was so out there. He was so laid bare in so many ways, which is one reason why I think he was so successful on screen.
He could charm a bird out of a tree.
Yeah.
He was amazing.
Yeah. So how about the wedding? Tell me about the wedding.
Well, the wedding, I made my dress and his suit. It was a blue corduroy suit. Yes. And I only had about
you youngsters, it's beautiful.
I had about a month to do it. And we went back to Houston. It was very much no frills. It was in my family's backyard in Bel Air, Texas. Very modest home. And our reception was in his mom, Patsy's dance studio. Mm-hmm. And it was great. We were exhausted.
Yeah.
We were exhausted afterwards. We had this like romantic night planned. We were going to go to a fancy hotel downtown. We had no money whatsoever. And we were so exhausted, we just fell right asleep.
He said something about how like he was nervous about something you did or said in the she's crying because she didn't want to marry me. You were crying. And he's he's crying because she doesn't want to marry me. And so he says he didn't.
What happens when you threaten to run your motorcycle into a stop sign if you don't marry? He's like, maybe she doesn't want to do this.
Poor guy. He's just like, I just want her to love me so bad.
Yes. And you know what? I felt like I had to spend a lot of years making up for that comment that I made initially when he asked me to marry him. So,
wow.
Yeah.
All right. So you decide, well, actually, how did you decide to go to Hollywood? You were doing the New York City thing. You guys were dancing. You were on Broadway, right?
Yes, both of us. And we had transitioned out of dancing into theater, which we both had huge backgrounds in. And really a lot of that happened because there are 2 reasons. One for me is that, I wasn't getting the stuff that I wanted in the ballet field. Mm-hmm. And for Patrick, it was that his knee was so freaking bad. And
he had a knee injury in high school, right? He had a knee injury playing football.
Knee injury in high school, and that he was dancing on this really damaged knee was pretty much insane. But Patrick is very determined and has a very high pain threshold, and you don't tell him no.
Right.
He can overcome. But it got to a point where, it became about quality of life, and so dancing on Broadway or doing anything like that was like a ton easier than ballet.
Yeah.
So we got into theater. He got Grease on Broadway, played Danny Zuko.
Ooh.
And that was like super cool that he got that.
With the hair.
Oh, yes. And of course, Patrick does love his hair.
He loves his hair.
Loves it.
Yeah.
And and at that point, we contacted a manager, Bob Lamont, who his mom, Patsy, says, you should call Bob. Bob's a big manager. But at that point, it was like, I want to make it on my own. I don't want to be just about being my mom's son.
Oh, man.
And so he did contact Bob and talk with him. And he said, listen, buddy, anybody who can help you, you contact. And he took him on. And at that point, he said, you know what, you could stay here in New York, but there's a lot more opportunity in Los Angeles if you want to get into the acting and everything.
Right.
And so we took our $2,000, our 2 cats. We got on a plane and we landed in Los Angeles. Didn't have the faintest idea where we were going.
Yeah. I actually love that part of the story. So this is like 1979 or something, right? Something like that.
Exactly.
So I love that part of the story because what happens is you guys land and then you find a payphone and then you call the agent and you're like, we're in LA. And he's like, oh, well, you can just stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel or whatever.
First of all, they didn't know who he was.
No.
That was scary.
Yeah.
They didn't know who he was. They said, oh, you could stay. Most of our clients stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And we're like, oh my gosh, we've got like $2,000 in the entire world.
Total. Yeah.
And
the Beverly Hills Hotel, even then, would have been like $400.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we ended up driving around looking for some place that would take the cast. And we ended up in Hollywood at a hotel called the Saharan.
Which I drive by on the way to the grocery store every time I
yes,
go.
And they really,
I love the story.
They really renovated it.
By that hotel, I'd be like, that's where Buddy and Lisa lived when they first moved here.
That's right. And it looks really great now. But then when he talked to the desk manager, he said, well, I may have a room, but I have to, there's a lady who comes into town for business and I have to check and make sure she's not allergic to the cats. Well, the lady's a hooker that uses the room. And it turns out we're in Hooker Haven and there's noise at all hours of night. And Patrick was washing clothes. You see people going in the alley and coming out. And I tell you what, but the guy at the desk was so nice. And when we left, he said, when you make it, you come back here and you stay for free.
Oh my God, that's great.
It was so great.
Well, and so for the benefit of those who don't know, so Hollywood, the idea is amazing and glamorous, like the industry. Yeah. Hollywood, the neighborhood, actual physical neighborhood in LA is not a nice place. It's really sort of run down. Like there's the one strip where there's all the tourists and stuff and the theaters and whatever. But it's really seedy. It's really run down. And particularly, I'm sure in the late 70s, you probably were like, wow, where are we? What is happening? Yeah.
Definitely.
Right. All right. So you get here and you're, I guess, doing auditions and you supported yourself as carpenters, right? Didn't you like build stuff?
Yeah. We were which we started back in New York when we were starving dancers. Because even when you had a job as a dancer, you were only making maybe $10 over unemployment. So Patrick grew up with his family, watching his family, build lake houses and stuff. They'd all get together like a barn raising. And we taught ourselves carpentry. And on his first job, we didn't even have any power tools. He was hand sawing things in our 1-bedroom apartment. And at one point he says, Lisa, could you hold this? And I ended up building half cabinets with him. So we were a team.
Yeah.
And we'd pick up lumber on our motorcycle. We'd have 2 sheets of plywood. He'd sit on I'd drive. He'd sit on the back and he'd set them on the foot pegs. And that's all that crazy stuff you do when you're young.
Yeah, seriously, right? Wow.
Yeah.
So what was his break? Like what happened to make you guys start to see some success?
Well, one thing I'd like to mention was, and it was kind of a mixed blessing because he got like the bad guy in a movie called Skate Town, USA.
Ooh, Skate Town.
And it was one of those roller skating movies when it was all the craze.
Yeah.
And he played a character called Ace. And I tell you what, though, if you haven't seen it, you can go on YouTube and put Patrick Swayze, Skate Town, USA, and you watch his solo.
Everybody must do this because it is the most magnificent thing you've ever seen.
It is so crazy amazing.
There's a still in the book. Look at this. Yeah. Look at that guy. That is magnificent. Also, here's the Saharan Hotel, by the way.
But I tell you what, and I watched it, a few years ago, and I was like, oh my God, no wonder he got the reviews he did on that thing. And I looked at the comments below, and there's one comment that says, man, that guy is sex on a stick. I thought that was funny as hell. She was right. Sex on a stick. And he was very, very hot. And the duet that he does with April is really wonderful. So, but roller skating, just one of his many talents.
Yeah, right. Like all of a sudden, here's a guy who can just like roller skate like he's, you know, doing a ballet dance. But that's what's so amazing about him, and that's one of the things that I think was why he became so big, was that like who can you get who's like can be the bad guy roller skater, super sexy, but also like sort of you see his humanity, you know, like he's
gosh, yeah, he had his heart on his sleeve, and he really always worked very hard at his craft, and because he did not intend to be just some fly by night, you know, little brat pack kid.
Yeah.
And you know, he was offered other stuff, similar stuff after that, which he turned down.
He said no.
Yeah. And there were all these little things until he got North and South. So North and South was one of the things that really started to tip him, because it was an enormously successful miniseries. And he became very, very popular. He became fodder for water cooler talk.
Nice turn of phrase there.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Well, this was it's a miniseries based on a series of novels about the American Civil War.
The John Jakes novels. Yeah.
And who did he play? What did he play? Like some Southern, like
Ori Main.
Oh, so
Ori Main.
A Southerner, right?
Yes.
Of course.
And quick funny story. We were riding in a horse show. He was riding in a horse show. And this is in Dallas, Texas. And he's going around, and this man in the stands kind of turns to his wife and says, "Man, that guy rides like he thinks he's Ori Main." So it's like, it is Ori Main.
He actually is Ori Main.
But, you know, like that really got things going. And, you know, we did a movie in Africa, and people would recognize him from North and South, believe it or not.
Wow.
In the middle of Africa. And but what really blew the lid off was Dirty Dancing.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Dirty Dancing.
Yeah,
let's talk about that. So how did that? Didn't you like read that for him and give it to him and say, "Buddy, you got to do this," or something?
That was Ghost.
Oh, that was Ghost.
That was Ghost. Okay. And when we first read Dirty Dancing, we were like, this like kind of reads like a summer camp movie, you know, like a Meatballs summer camp movie. And but you know, it was a what do you call it? Not a strategic move, but it was a well thought out move with some risk that it entailed some risk in doing something like this, because this thing could have turned out really silly or really good. And Buddy really wanted, if he was going to pull out the dance card, he wanted it to be really, really good.
And did you, as I remember, you guys maybe worked with the writers or the people who were doing the movie to sort of say, let's bring out more of this character or that character, because it felt like his character was kind of one dimensional. Am I remembering that?
But they, you know, like always, and particularly with that, and for a lot of people involved, and of course, Emil Ardolina gets a lot of credit for how wonderful that movie turned out. And it's a wonderful movie, as it turns out.
It is.
And but everybody was very new. It was Emil's first film, producer's first film. Wow. I think Eleanor's her second script that she had done. And you know, and Jennifer, she's the leading lady, and Patrick's going to be dancing. And they every night they were working and improving. They were up working, rewriting, all of that. And Patrick was right in there with them, you know, because he always had a wonderful opinion. He actually thought that Johnny should go off with Penny at the end.
I did too. Johnny and Penny made it really helpful.
Yeah, because no one's ever going to believe that I go off with Baby. Like, you're missing the point.
That's
point
hilarious.
Is that
listen, I'm with Buddy on that.
Well, you know, but the whole point is that it's like every girl's dream. Even when I was a teenager, you know, because I was not popular at all. I was really, you know, backwards socially, and you know, and it was your dream that the handsome, popular guy would recognize me for who I am. and the beauty that I have inside in response to that. And I said, this is what the movie's about. And you know what, when I, you know, Patrick was pushing and pushing and pushing for that. And they said, well, Lisa's coming. Lisa's coming. They're like, oh no. And then when I said, no, this is how it needs to go. They were like, oh, thank you. Welcome, Lisa. We're glad to have you.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
Well, he said, so of course there's two really, truly iconic moments from that movie. One is nobody puts baby in a corner, and the other is the lift, right?
Yes.
So I remember Buddy saying he didn't like that line.
He hated that line.
He thought it was corny or stupid.
He didn't like it.
The line everybody loves, though.
That's right. Yeah.
You just never know, right?
I think that would probably be the only time he'd admit that he was really, really wrong.
Yeah. So funny.
Yeah.
But what about the lift? Like you and he worked that out, like with Jennifer, right? Like
well, Buddy and I had always done that lift, and so they're looking
so easy. Like, of course, we'd always done that lift, which is an insanely difficult thing to do.
But you had, you know, they were looking for something that was really spectacular, and it was Patrick's suggestion.
Yeah,
they do the angel,
the lake in the water. Oh my God,
we called it the angel.
The angel. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great movie. I mean, people just still watch it so many. Like, it's one of those movies where if you're like clicking through the channels and you see it, like you have to watch the end. Like, you just keep watching it, you know, because it's just
it's great. And you know, early when it was first coming out, it was at the film festival in Devoux, France.
Devereaux? I don't even know what the
okay. There's a big film festival there, and it was the opening film. And at the end, when they were playing the music, there were people dancing in the aisles.
Oh wow, that's great.
They were dancing in the aisles.
Yeah.
And then the credits finished, and we kind of stood up to go, and we're on a balcony, right? And everybody in the audience rose and turned around at us and gave us a standing ovation.
That's awesome.
It was like, wow, I think we've got something.
Yeah. Well, you know, it just had such a great feel to it, you know, like the whole energy of that film is just really great. And I think that's one of the big things that Buddy brought to all of his films, right? Is there was something about his energy as a person that just really came through.
Yes. And also, you know, that it has the Dirty Dancing has surprising layers as far as, you know, social echelons, and you know, it wasn't just a little love story. They had a lot of other themes running through it that really supported it and made it so strong. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
All
right, so let's talk about Ghost. So you would get, well, so obviously you guys are getting piles of scripts all the time. Everybody wants money and everything, and so you and he would read the scripts and you would talk about like what's a good next move. And he was not interested in Ghost, and you were like, dude.
He was not interested in reading any script. It was like it was like pulling teeth to get him to read a script. And I had read the script, our assistant had read the script, and we tried for like 2 months to get him to read this stupid thing. And you just have to. Finally got him to sit down and read it. And when he finished, he came out with tears in his eyes. And he says, I have to do this movie. Have to. And he had to fight hard for it, because at that point he had Dirty Dancing and he was a well-known name. And his next movie was Roadhouse.
Baby. Pain Don't Hurt.
Which does not which was so fun.
Yeah.
And but does not say, you know, this is the perfect casting for Sam and Ghost. You know, that Roadhouse character. And as a matter of fact, I think Jerry Zucker, the director, screened Roadhouse, and it's reputed that he stood up at the end and said, over my dead body will Patrick Swayze do this movie.
Yeah.
But Patrick, you know, he was so passionate about it, and he went in and practically read the whole script with them, with the casting director, and everybody in the room was crying at the end. Yeah. And that was it.
Well, he brings oddly
enough, there were a lot of other famous actors, from what I don't know, I only knew this later on, that were offered that part, or talked to about doing that part, and they just didn't see it. And it's
They
like,
didn't see it.
how
Wow.
could they not, you know?
Yeah, no,
So,
it's beautiful, beautiful
thank
film.
God.
But you touched on something that I think was really true that he talked about in the book, and really movingly, I think, is that, as hugely successful as he was, and he's this international movie star, an icon of film, and he never felt like he had made it. He always felt like he had to prove himself over and over and over again. And I'm sure that had to have been difficult.
You know what? As an actor, you're always out of a job.
Yeah.
You're always looking for another job because you just lost one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure probably every actor out there has that same fear,
Mm-hmm.
And also it's a tough industry because you're only as good as your last movie.
Yeah.
You can get your vote canceled pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that I love about your story with Buddy is that you and he would like develop these interests together, and then you would pursue them, and then you would basically be like the most kick-ass person doing it, right? So like, you love horses, he loves horses, you guys start showing horses, you start winning national awards.
Yeah.
You guys decide that you're going to learn how to fly a plane because you want to get a little private plane, and all of a sudden you are out there doing loop-de-loops and like entering competitions and stuff. Like, you're like, I love that part of the story where it's just like, oh my God, everything Lisa wants to do, Buddy's like, let's do this thing, this is fun, and then Lisa's like going and winning all the trophies, So
yes.
The whole like airplane and horses thing, you guys got really deeply into that, right?
Yeah, totally. And we were definitely adventurous. A lot of times he was pulling me into all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like the flying, I didn't want to do the flying. And I thought it'd be boring. And then the moment I started, I didn't want to do anything else. And it came from, I don't want to fly, to...
Oops, we just lost your video, Lisa.
Oh, here we go. What is going on there?
Oh,
okay.
There you are. You're back.
It came from me not wanting to learn how to fly to, I'm going to be on location in South Carolina. I'll take the plane, to which I would reply, no, honey, I'm dropping you off. So,
yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But we always loved learning new things. And also we lived in the north part of the valley, not in Hollywood. And mm-hmm. we always felt that it was important to be connected to something of a real life and not just a Hollywood show up at award shows. So, and actually I think Patrick was very proud of that.
Yeah.
That we didn't play into that game, and we didn't, we're on a ranch and we're toting bales and all of that mess. And
you guys were so smart how you did that, because the ranch that you had was like, you could get into Hollywood in like 40 minutes or something, but you were far enough away from Hollywood that you were nestled up against the mountains. Yeah. And you guys bought a place that was right next to like protected land. And so you could just go out on your horses, and it was like you had the most giant backyard imaginable. It was just acres and acres and acres.
Yeah. So and also I think, and I'm sure Patrick agrees with this, is that, you can get into all the glamour and all of that mess, but if you're an artist, if you're an actor and you're an artist, why would you want to cut yourself off from real life and live some kind of pampered life? It removes you from being able to understand and really embody those roles if you're not experiencing them, because we never stop learning, having experiences like that. And if it's all pampered stuff, I'm sure you've noticed, like with music lyrics, somebody starts out really great and they have all these interesting things to say, and then they move into this, fame and pampered thing, and all of a sudden they're talking about their Maserati, and the lyrics totally change because they could only write from their experience, right? Yeah. Same thing with books.
And you've got to exactly right. Randy and I do the same thing, where we're like, once we finish a project, it's like, we got to go somewhere and fill the cup. You got to fill the cup. You got to experience the things and talk to the people, and just have adventures and do all that kind of thing, because otherwise you empty yourself out and then there's nothing left.
That's right. And then the only truth you have to talk about is like what it's like to work on your book or whatever, so
yeah. Yeah. So tell me about, so you and Patrick collaborated on a couple of things. You've made a movie together called One Last Dance.
Yes.
And then we'll talk in a minute about The Beast. But let's talk about One Last Dance for a minute. Tell me what that is and how did that come about?
Well, we had done a play called Without a Word. God, I don't remember when. This was a theatrical production. It was very successful. We won a bunch of awards. And people never let us forget about it. And they says, why don't you turn it into a movie and da-da-da-da. And so, through getting a movie done is nothing short of a miracle and something to be really proud of. And we managed to get it done and had phenomenal dancers. And I ended up, we really did try to find another director, but it was kind of like, no way, I got to do it.
So you directed it,
yeah. So, and I tell you what, whenever I've done something like that, it's been a piece of heaven for me, because it gives me the opportunity to use all of the talents that I've, that I have grown over the years, and it's great. You have to really think on your feet and be creative but organized at the same time, and it's a wonderful, creative, exciting challenge. And we both produced in addition to starring in it and dancing. So it was I love the directing part in particular. So it was really wonderful.
It seems like it's something you would be very suited to, like the skills that you need as a director. I feel like those are skills that you have. You're very organized. You have your vision of what you want to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm very budget minded too.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which is appreciated. Get what you want, but do it within the budget, and that's always a challenge.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, you have all the skills needed to be doing all of that. So, but let's switch. I want to make sure we have time to talk about Worth Fighting For. So let's talk about, so you guys are in your 50s, I think. Everything's going really well.
Yeah.
You guys have this amazing career that you've built together, and then Buddy gets sick.
Yeah.
So how did, he just wasn't feeling well? He was like, was there a particular, I think there was like a champagne thing. What happened?
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve, and he had we toasted, he sipped this champagne, and he said it felt like battery acid going down. And he had been having chronic stomach pains, but he also always had a kind of uneasy stomach. And so but then he came up to me one day and said, do my eyes look yellow to you?
Oh.
And yeah, they were. And he was going to put it off. And I'm going, no, we have to get you into the doctor right away. This isn't normal.
Yeah.
And the moment the doctor saw him, he sent him right over to get a CT scan. And, it was a brutal, 24 hours before we got the results on that, and you hope that it's going to be something like, oh, he drank too much alcohol and got pancreatitis.
Yeah.
But no, it turned out to be pancreatic cancer.
So he was diagnosed, 24 hours after the CT scan. And I think there was a moment, right, where you knew, but he didn't know, and you wanted to give him a last little bit of normalcy.
There was one more step. He had an endoscopic procedure where they took a biopsy, and they confirmed to me. He was very out of it, and he had to be really sedated because it was very, very difficult to get into the spot where they needed to take the biopsy, which was not good. And it caused him a lot of pain later on. So he was heavily sedated, but he was around. And I can't tell him when he's barely conscious. It's going on. And it was just one long night, and holding on to this information. And I finally fell asleep, and when I woke up, the doctor was in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked over at me and he goes, "You didn't tell him?" And I could see from Patrick's face that he had just been told that it was confirmed that it was pancreatic cancer. And when the doctor left the room, Buddy turned to me and he said, "I'm out of here." Because that's everything that he knew about pancreatic cancer, is that if you hear someone's got pancreatic cancer, they're not long for this world.
Mm.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that hasn't, it's improved a bit, but we've got a lot further to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two different types of pancreatic cancer, but the type that he had is really not, I mean, it's just not something that people live for very long.
Yes. Is it adenocarcinoma? Anyway, yeah, it's a really aggressive one.
Yeah. So but he ended up living almost 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not only did he live almost 2 years, he shot an entire TV series.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did all of his own stunts. Which he directed some of those episodes as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I like to say that, he, well, of course he was supposed to be dead, and all the tabloids were reporting he's in his final 2 weeks and da-da-da-da. And then he goes off and shoots a television series 6 months later when he's supposed to be dead. And as I like to say, he was working during the week. He was working 14 to 16-hour days. He was getting chemotherapy on the weekends. And as we say in Texas, he was kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Yeah. And at one point, this nurse kind of was very sympathetic. And he goes, you don't have to do this. It's like comforting, like, you can just kind of go easy on yourself. You don't, it's like, and he was like, he said he felt like the Hulk came over him. It's like, how dare you tell me not to fight? How dare you tell me to give in?
Wow.
And because we called ourselves realistic optimists. We knew it's like living in a freaking nightmare, but we knew in all likelihood how it was going to end. But we held out hope because there are always miracles that happen.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, a miracle happens and somebody gets through. And why not? Why not him?
Yeah.
Why not you? Mm-hmm. And so you have to fight and you have to hope. And that's the hope is a very precious thing. And I think that because of how hard we fought and how vigilant we were, and because of our hope and attitude, he lasted 22 months, which is, and I tell you what, it was tough, but every freaking moment was, I'm using freaking a lot, but every moment was precious.
Every moment was precious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, obviously I think he had been sick for a little while, and then you guys made the decision to do the book. And, obviously because you hadn't done a book before, and the publisher is like, okay, let's get somebody who's done books. And so, I was fortunate enough to be able to come in and talk to you guys, and we hit it off.
We were fortunate enough.
But I remember thinking like, wow, this is really, I'm honored anytime someone invites me into their lives to do something, but I was very aware of the fact that this was going to be probably the last 6 months or so that you had together. And I was like right there with you guys. And I was very aware of that all the time. And I wanted to make sure that we got done what needed to get done. But I also, it was, but both you and Buddy were just, you just invited us right in, and Randy and me and both, and you guys were just so warm right from the get-go. Mm-hmm. But just seeing him, and, I didn't know him before he got sick. I knew him as a person with cancer, but I couldn't believe how much he could get done. I couldn't believe his spirit of just ever forward was really, really inspiring.
Yes, in extraordinary circumstances. Mm-hmm. And I was really happy he did the book, and of course I'm very happy with how the book turned out. And because he had such an extraordinary life, and even when, he was philosophical. On occasion, he said how, hey, you know what? Part of me is kind of like, I've lived everything in life. I have lived such a full life. If anything, I've had 9 lives. And
That's so true.
it made a little
Did
more
a few times before. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. He definitely lived right on the edge there. But yeah.
So I'm really happy. And then after the book was done, he did the audio version. And I mean, again, you know, like it'd take him a long time to get there.
Yeah.
Get down in the studio to record it, but he that all performance energy would
he was
kick
so
in
ill at that point, and that was in August, and then he died in September. So literally, it was in the last month. I remember this so clearly. It was August. He did that audiobook.
Yeah.
And I think in some weird way, it gave him some energy. Like he seemed kind of stoked to be doing it.
It did. He put everybody else under the table. You know,
literally stoked on occasion.
Like, I'm exhausted. I need to stop, and he would just keep going.
Yeah, and he did it. I've never listened to it. I can't. I think it would just break my heart to listen to it.
I haven't listened to it.
Yeah.
We went, and you, Randy, and Patrick and I went on a horseback ride. Yes. And I tell you what, I didn't want to ride the horse back because I was so sore and tired and all of that. And he's like ready to get on and ride back. I'm like, how is he doing this? It's just
that was the most unbelievable thing to me. Like we were there, we were visiting y'all at your ranch in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And he said, let's go for a ride. And we were like, you know, first of all, like he's lost so much weight. He was never had a big butt to begin with, but you know, he was just bones, you know, and he's like, let's go. And we did. And we rode like 2 hours out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
And Randy and I are so saddle sore. We're like, oh my God, like, how are we going to make it back? And he's just up there in his saddle looking magnificent. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, you know, he wanted to live.
He did. He
did not want to give up.
He was lit by a fire inside him. That's for sure. He really was. He truly was. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a really beautiful moment after he died, and he died at home. And also, I just want to say too, like watching you take over taking care of him in like all the medical ways, because you never had a nurse or anything. Like you did the medications, you did the shots, you did all the stuff, like, which was also amazing to me. Like I remember watching that and just being like, you trying to make everything as normal as possible as it could possibly be was really also very inspiring. But there's a really lovely moment after he passed at home when you brought the horse over. Can you tell that story?
Oh man. Ugh. There were people all around and family, and somebody had sent these beautiful white roses, and I picked the most perfect one and to put it on his chest. And there was this amulet kind of tribal necklace that I hung above his head that he really liked when he first got. And our groom brought this beautiful silvery white stallion, and we have French doors into our bedroom where he was lying, and he brought him up into the opening of the French doors and gave him the cue. This is our stallion, Roe. And the stallion bowed. And it was just like, it was pretty incredible.
Yeah. It's an incredible moment. It's beautiful. And you describe it beautifully in the book. You know, it's so heartfelt. You know, I was really impressed with the fact that, you know, having worked with you guys on the first book, obviously I knew what you were capable of, but then a few years later, for you to put your grief and open yourself up in that way on the page, you know, for this book was like, I mean, I read it and I turned to Randy and I was like, she wrote the hell out of that book. Like this is a great book. It really is. And also, you know, you talk a lot about like being somebody, you know, you're a Finnish descent. You are a person who comes from a family who is not particularly emotionally open. And you really cracked it open for this book, you know, which I'm sure was really hard to do.
You know, interestingly, I think it was a good thing that I did that, because one of the a very healthy way of dealing with grief is to keep telling the story of what happened. So I told the story in a big way in this book. And you know what? I just the other day I mentioned to someone about this actress who was so talented, and Buddy and I were in the same acting class for years, and we saw her do this work, and she had had a miscarriage. She had tried very desperately to get pregnant, and then she had a just miscarriage and just broke her up. And she did this scene where she's weeping and everything, and afterwards she said, "You know, I used my miscarriage and
wow.
as kind of as impetus for this scene." And she said, because if I can't take that bad experience and do something constructive with it, then what is it worth?
Yeah.
And so that's the same thing with this. And it's just like when you share your truth,
Yeah.
people recognize it. And off of that book, I had so many people in the similar situations that would like write me and say, how did you get inside my head?
Wow.
And,
wow.
you know, that's just to be able to reach out and connect with people like that is really, really special. And it makes us know that we're not alone in the world.
That's what it's all about, right? That's what it's all about. That's why we do books, right? Like to reach out and make that connection with people. It's a beautiful thing that you've done with this book, honestly, with both of these.
Thank you.
It really is. It truly is.
Thanks.
So I want to ask you then two things. One is, you know, you were married to Patrick Swayze for 34 years, right?
Yeah.
You know, Patrick Swayze, right? What man could possibly follow that? What man would have the courage or the chutzpah to say, I'll be the next guy in Lisa Niemi's life? So tell us about your next man.
Well, I was lucky that it's Albert DePrisco. And I met him probably 3 years after Patrick died. And it was a birthday party. You were actually there.
Yes, I was. He and I had on matching shirts that day. That's what I remember. And I both had on these like brown check shirts, and he was like, "Hey, I like your shirt."
And I tell you what, at that point, I felt as bad as I ever had in this whole grieving process. And I mean, it was excruciatingly painful time. And 3 days before my birthday, you know, I just kind of said, you know what, if feeling all choked up, I said, you know what, if this is the way it's going to be for the rest of my life, I can do it. I'm fine. I'm alone and I'm fine. And you know what, I may prefer it this way. So I got myself out of bed, and I said, I called all the usual suspects, and I said, I'm going to have a barbecue like Buddy and I used to always. Pulled out our platters and smoked the meats and got the food and invited everybody over. And some friends called and they said, we have a friend in town visiting. Can we bring him? And I said, sure, bring him on. So, and they brought Albert. So he came to my birthday party. He was upset he didn't bring a gift in retrospect, but I guess he brought himself. And from there, we started talking on the phone. We saw each other again the next week. We were supposed to go out for a foursome. And then oddly enough, the other couple said they had another event they had to go to. So it was just Albert and me. And we started talking. And 4 hours later, I said, maybe we should let them go home. And sure enough, we had been talking for 4 hours.
Wow.
And we just kind of went from there. But, you know, it's really odd because I really noticed that as I was falling in love with Albert, you know, because at first it's like, this guy's too good to be true. And then, but my friends are saying, no, he's for real. He's for real. It's like, I've got to trust my friends. They're smart. They must know. They've known him for as long as they've known me, 30 years. And as I'm falling in love with him, I said, you know, this is the most extraordinary thing because this doesn't affect anything, having anything with my love for Patrick. And I was talking to a widow friend of mine about that, and she goes, that's because love comes from the same well. You know, for both, Albert had gone through a very devastating divorce. around the time that I lost Patrick. And, I just felt like we were both people that still had a lot of love to give.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just extremely fortunate to find each other and find someone to give it to.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and yes, occasionally he is a pain in the ass too. So.
Well,
like anybody,
aren't we all?
But he's a pretty special, loving, warm, fun. He's got a lot of great qualities, and I think Patrick would be very, very happy Albert's in my life.
I think he would be very happy too, but it was funny. It was funny in the beginning because Randy and I would joke like, Buddy's up there in heaven being like, I could kick that guy's ass.
And yes, he could.
He could totally kick Albert's ass. It's true. But he could kick anybody's ass, so that's okay.
Of course.
But one of the things I loved about Albert from the beginning was that he was never, ever, ever threatened by the legacy of Patrick Swayze or who Patrick was. He was just like, whatever. He was an awesome guy and he made Lisa happy. So, and now here I am and I'm going to make Lisa happy.
That's exactly.
He was so secure in his own position in your life, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I'm like super surprised, he has not been intimidated by it. And also I'm careful, not careful, but I'm considerate.
Yeah.
That I don't have like a ton of Patrick stuff around. I could. Actually, yeah. I'm in a new place now and I just moved and I packed up all this stuff that I still have at Patrick's. Yeah. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a small little room.
Oh, yeah.
A small room where it's all his stuff.
Yeah.
And I can just go and sit in there occasionally.
Yeah.
But I don't put it everywhere in the house because you know what? There has to be room for Albert.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's very considerate. That's good. Yeah. I'm sure he appreciates that.
Yeah.
All right. Two more questions for you. One is, Are you working on anything now that you can tell us about?
Well, I kind of cringe because I've been working on this for quite some time. And then, like we hit the pandemic and then which you would think that would be advantageous. And, but I'm working on my first piece of fiction, which is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
And, it's been a learning curve for me because it's just the whole approach to it. I have had to, it's been a new learning curve, but I love my story. One thing that I would say is that deadlines are very, very valuable.
Yes. Deadlines are your friend. Yeah.
That's why I've been working on this for a long time because it seems like my life is always getting in the way,
Yeah. Well, moving house is that's one thing that gets in the way. So it's hard to work during the pandemic. But anyway, so what can you tell us anything about it, about your novel, or
yeah. I mean, basically, and I've always wanted to do something because we have this ranch in New Mexico, which is so gorgeous, in the wilderness with that kind of rural community, and also I have always had a big interest in teen addiction, teen suicide. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of friends who work with teens in this area. Mm-hmm. And, but basically, and one day, boom, it came to me. And also I wanted something having to do with dealing with grief and pushing through grief and keeping going. And mm-hmm. boom, it just came to me of these two teens that have bad drug addictions that are sent to live with this Mennonite family. Mm-hmm. Because they keep running away from rehab, but trouble follows them there and tragedy befalls everyone. And they have to escape in the wilderness with the daughter, the 14-year-old daughter, Mennonite daughter. And so it's a suspense action mm-hmm. story. Yeah. And these kids have to heal with each other and they have to fight in a terrible, terrible situation where they're dealing with their grief. They have to find a reason to go on. And so it's action, adventure, suspense. Yeah.
Excellent. I like it.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to do a self-imposed deadline. Damn it.
I know. Well, listen, it's the only way to get it done. It's the only way. If you you have to do it because otherwise the work expands to fill the time. It's always the way.
I only need one more pass. That's how
Girl.
close I am.
All right. You know what? We'll
So-
talk about it. We'll talk about it after this is over. I'm going to set
Okay.
you some deadlines. One last thing for you. You got very involved after Buddy died with the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network.
Yes.
Are you still involved with them? And do you want to say anything about if people want to make a donation or anything like that?
Yes, I do. And I don't know when they're going to be airing this, but, you know, so I don't know if it's a moot point, but certainly at any point you can go to pancan.org and donate. This organization is wonderful. They provide special services to patients, grants to scientists for research. We do incredible work in Washington, D.C. because we need federal funding to push this disease forward, because no other cancer makes progress without federal funding, among many other things. So it's a multifaceted organization. And April 30th, depending on when this comes out, April 30th is our big Purple Stride Day. And that's where we get out and walk, and a lot of it's virtual. Lots going to be in person. But I have Team Swayze, my way or the highway.
Team Swayze.
So that's what I've dubbed it. My way or the highway.
My way or the highway. Oh God, that's perfect.
And I have a goal, 25,000. I hope I raise much more than that. So if you go on pancan.org and put in Team Swayze, you'll find my page. So
all right, Team Swayze. All right. Well, I feel like I'm on Team Swayze too. And I'm very happy to have been invited into Team Swayze. Lisa, this has been great. This has been really insightful and enjoyable. I am so proud to know you, and I'm so proud of these books that you have done. And I'm really excited to read your novel. And anything else you want to add?
No, we covered a lot of territory.
We did cover a lot of territory. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for coming, and I'll talk to you offline about your deadline. We'll get your book out, the next one.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Lisa.
Many thanks, everyone.